are we recording everywhere? Everywhere. Everybody, welcome back to Black Magic Craft. This is gonna be a little bit different, a little bit of a hangout, chill, and experiment kind of video. In the last two videos, I made use of this new product that I found called Pan Pastels for dry brushing, and I really enjoyed using them. I bought them just for weathering powder, but turns out they worked great for actual painting. They basically allow you to do something like dry brushing, but with a much better effect that's a lot easier. Problem when you're dry brushing with paint, especially like craft paint, is that no matter how careful you are, you often end up getting streaks of paint onto your piece that you don't want. The paint is always a little bit wet, so it can be difficult to get that dusty, only raised edge highlight look. And these Pan Pastels don't have that problem. Now, originally I just bought these three colors, a raw umber, a neutral gray shade, and a neutral gray tint. So basically the same grays, but one is darker than the other. And that's how these Pan Pastels come. They come in like a shade, a tint, and a middle, I can't remember, but there's like three lightnesses of the same tones. But I decided I wanted some more of them. And I went and I treated myself to a few more. And I figured, why not just, when I'm trying them out, film it and share it with you guys. I will say, these are not the cheapest of materials. They are definitely more expensive than craft paint. These were, I think, $12 or $14 Canadian per color, but that's at a local art supply store. They're cheaper on Amazon. I think they're like 10 bucks on Amazon. I could be wrong. I will put links to them on Amazon so you can see what they're all about in the video description. However, despite them being a little bit expensive, say this is $10 and a craft paint is 50 cents. Obviously a craft paint is much cheaper, but these are a bit of an investment and you're not gonna be going through them very quickly. It's a dry pigment. You're gonna use it up very slowly. Much like oil paints for washes, this is the sort of thing you buy once and probably don't have to replace for a very long time. So it is an upfront cost, but I don't think it's a big cost in the grand scheme of things. I noticed when applying these the first time, just playing around, that makeup brushes were ideal. You want something very big and puffy and fluffy. Ones like this, these large ones, I found they didn't work the best. It can be tempting to want to cover a big area with such a large brush, but I found when I was doing it before, this one actually worked perfectly. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more condensed, and it has a point that can get into some crevices, into the corners, giving you a bit more control. So I would suggest getting some brushes like this. You can get some smaller ones too for some more detailed pieces. And these are just makeup brushes from Dollar Tree. I use them as a highlight dry brush on top of craft paint. But I want to see how it would work if I were to apply it directly to a piece, only using this, because I have a feeling it'll work really well. I have some test pieces here. These are just some ruined wall sections that I made previously. I made these sculpts myself out of foam, made silicone molds, and cast them in plaster. I chose these because they have a lot of great detail and some also difficult areas to get into, so I think it's a good way to test. What I'm gonna do is start with the two that I've already used, the kind of medium gray and a lighter gray, and I want to see how it looks if I were to try to paint a generic gray stone using only these, and then I'll get into some different color combinations and see how that looks. So I'm going to start with kind of darker gray here, get off some of the excess until I feel comfortable with what I'm doing, and let's just see. So you can see here, it's painting it really nicely. It's giving it a dusty look, preserving some of that black, but actually covering up quite a bit of it. If you apply these somewhat heavy with a loaded brush, you get excellent coverage. But what you won't get is those wet streaks that you get with paint. That already looks pretty good. Now let's get rid of some of that excess in the brush and pick up some of this lighter gray. And now I want to see if I can just highlight it and see how that looks. Yeah, it is working pretty nice. I actually think I should have bought just a pure white or the highest highlights. But really that, to me, looks lovely, and it only took seconds to do. And if you're wondering, this stuff does stick really well. You don't have to lock it in with a clear coat, I don't think. You can though, and I probably would, you know, just spray it with a matte varnish. This isn't just like pigment powder dust that just sits on the surface. It's a pastel, so it has some kind of binder in it, and it does actually stick. Now let's try something more of a natural stone look. Let's go and build up with some browns. This color here is a burnt sienna extra dark. And I think this one is, that's raw umber and orange extra dark. Let's see how this looks when I build these up. It's pretty dark, so I expect you won't see it too much. That's very chocolatey. Looks like I'm painting with cocoa powder. I gotta say, this covers way faster than paint does. I'm really surprised with how quickly this covers. So I wanna see what it looks like if I were to just go into a light highlight on this. And just like paint, you can mix these on a palette or on a piece of scrap. Oh, that looks so nice. That is a lovely natural stone look. Looks really realistic, actually. Again, 2 colors. Now I want to see if I were to put a coat of this dark burnt sienna and then move into this lighter, what was this, raw umber? Again, very nice. Giving it a little bit of a different tint. And let's now try this orange extra dark. That looks like it's gonna be a lovely color. This is a really nice sandy kind of look to it. I actually really like this color. A nice change of pace from your typical, you know, bluish gray. Again, let's see what it looks like when it gets highlighted. You'll notice I'm using the same brush, just, you know, back and forth, which is again very convenient, not having to wash it in between. Lovely. It looks great. I think you can just go directly, say, with this lighter color to start things off. You actually don't need to do too many different layers of color. This stuff goes on over top of the black so nicely. That alone creates a look that's not much different than going 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, you put a little bit of this on top. I think in general, this would be a 2-step application. You don't need to layer too much, but you can. What if we go with some of this dark cocoa-y brown? And then jump into this. So this is the burnt sienna extra dark, and this is burnt sienna. So same color family, should work as a really nice highlight. Complement it well. Oh yeah, if you want to do a modern brick, that's a really good color for it. That looks really good for a kind of terracotta brick. I actually now think that this red, what is this one? This is a permanent red extra dark. I have a feeling this will look really good for a traditional, you know, modern world brick. Oh, so vibrant. It's dark, but vibrant. Oh, that looks so good. What I love about this too is that when it applies, it keeps everything really matte looking. It doesn't make things shiny. Just see how little highlight of this light gray looks on this. That looks lovely. It was so good. It really is great. Yeah, and this gray, this light gray, works well over top of all of these colors. So if you're gonna get some, this natural gray tint is definitely a good one to get. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way this looks. I think for typical Dungeons and Dragons, Frost Gray, Vials of Torment kind of terrain, this right here is the nicest look, which if I remember, I think it was just a coat of this raw umber and then some gray highlights. I think that looks really nice. Of course, you can go in to something like this gray with a brush that has some of this tint on it of a brown or a red and give it even more depth. What I want to see now, I kind of took a bit of a risk with these greens here. I don't know, they might look a bit silly, like a bit too much, but I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna first try this. This is bright yellow green, extra dark. Bright yellow green, extra dark. It's a very nice swampy look. Now let's put on some bright yellow green shade. Oh, that looks cool. That looks really good. I like this better than using ink. You know, on a lot of terrain, I use a zenithal highlight and then inks with an airbrush. And it kind of gives a similar effect to this. But this means you don't need an airbrush. You just need a brush. Inks tend to be very shiny when they cure, and again, this is very matte. So if you want that kind of look without the airbrush and without the shine, oh, this is really nice. And I actually don't think you need as many colors as this because, you know, I'm seeing that you can sort of achieve good results with just a medium tone. You don't necessarily need the darker one underneath. Let's see how this looks with a gray on top. That looks good. I love it. There was a bunch of colors I didn't buy because I didn't know how this would work with, you know, kind of brighter colors, not like natural tones. But seeing this green, I'm thinking I should go back and get some purples and yellows and blues. We got this very bright, what is this, just bright yellow green. I got high hopes for this. First, let's see what it looks like as a highlight on here. If you want to go for that really crazy Masters of the Universe kind of look. Oh yes. Oh yes. I want to mix a little bit. Let's get some of this gray. It's very light gray and a little bit of this green. Mix it on my palette. And I think this will make more of a pastel-y, chalky green. Yeah. I mean, what more do you want? Even just putting a tiny, tiny bit on. How good does this look? And how fast is it? I love this. I absolutely love this. This is my new favorite thing. I'm sure it would scale down onto miniatures really well using smaller brushes, but for me, the fact that this is a quick way to paint large objects and look really good and not look like it's painted with craft paint, I'm very happy. I gotta go get some white though. That's what I'm missing. I need a bright white to really get the last little highlights standing out. So, Pan Pastel experiment. 100% success. I love this stuff. I'm gonna be using it a lot moving forward. I think it's super convenient. Like I said, a little bit of an investment because, you know, each pot is kind of expensive, but I don't know that you'll ever realistically go through one. You'd have to paint a lot with it. And it is so fast. I hate base coating with colors, like by hand with a brush. This makes quick work of it. It looks dusty and dry and natural. It sticks. If you want to do a wash, I would probably put a clear coat on first. Although I don't know that you need a wash when using something like this. I'm sure in the future I will get to that point where I'm gonna try it. And yeah, I would lock this in with a clear coat if I was gonna put a wash on it. You can probably buy this at your local art supply store. I bought this in Winnipeg at Artist Emporium. You can definitely get it on Amazon in the States and Canada, I think. I will put links in the description again so you can check it out. I would love to know, what do you guys think, both of these Pan Pastels? You think they're a hit? Do you have experience with these? If you know more about these and you want to share some tips and tricks working with it, I would really appreciate it. This was just a very quick test, but damn if it doesn't look good. Also, I'm curious if you enjoyed this type of video, just a little casual sit down, test some materials, hang out, chill, see how it goes. If you like that, let me know. And don't forget about the Patreon. That's a really great way you can help me keep producing these videos and keep these big, bright, expensive lights on. I'd love to have you as the newest member of the Black Magic Craft Fellowship. That's it. That's all. I'll see you again next time, and I will likely use these again in the next project. Cheers.